Today is the 22nd day of July. The time is 6 o'clock, the time established for having this meeting. This is a meeting for us to review the tentative budget of Ada County by our clerk. All three commissioners are present, and we have the majority of our elected officials are present as well. So we thank you for being here and attending this meeting. And I want to start out today a little bit by suggesting that there's been some sort of a letter or email sent out or a text message that encouraged some people to contact us, and I'm glad they are able to contact us. In fact, I wish there was more people there in the audience to talk to us, because we always have an open process. We sent an email to every member of the Idaho legislature, and we published it in the paper when we started our budgeting process. So we want everybody to participate that can. The levying authority that the county has derives from the Idaho Constitution, Article 7 and 15, if you want to look that up. Idaho Code Chapter 6 and 8 and Title 31 also authorizes and demands that the county levy property taxes. There's another area that I don't know is talked about much. It's right here. It's called county mandates. I've got a document here of every county mandate in the Idaho Code as of December 6, 2024. So there may be a few more because we've had one legislative session since. 47 pages. The county mandates are one of they're sort of what we have to follow in adopting our budget. And I want to give a little, when I first read that, I was stunned when I first looked at that text message. They said, oh, we're spending too much. I don't know how many people, if there's people online, because this is all being people can watch this online. But this board, Brian and I particularly, because we were elected in 21, and we took office we were elected in 20, and we took office in 21. Our first budget year, which was FY22, but it was in 21, we did something that had never been done before, ever, in Ada County's history. We cut property taxes, $12 million. I'm going to say it again, $12 million we cut property taxes for the FY22 budget. Again, never been done before. Over the next few years, because of a 24% cumulative inflation rate, because that's what's happened, you all know that. There's been a 24% cumulative inflation, and there's been when we first were sworn in, there was 518,310 residents in Ada County. This year, there's 572,020 residents. That's a 53,000 increase in population in Ada County. So to accommodate that, we have had to raise the base property tax a touch. But even when you take that base that we raise a little bit, there's still $925,000 left over out of the $12 million that we cut. We haven't even got to where we were before, by the way. So again, our number of employees are down a little bit. Number of employees per 10,000 or per 1,000 of population. Again, we don't even set the rates. There's 41 taxing districts in Ada County. We're only responsible for one of those. But again, because of the mandates here, we are charged with collecting all the taxes in all the 40 other taxing districts. And there's a lot of things that we do, most of what we do, by the way, is mandated by law. Here's the mandates. You're sitting in one of those mandates, the courthouse. The county is charged, county commissioners all across the state are charged with providing reasonable and adequate facilities for the courts. It's the law. And that's what we've done. That's what we do here. And there's a good reason for that. If somebody is arrested and has to have a trial, you have to have a space for them that have a trial. On the other hand, if somebody has a complaint against one of their neighbors or against a business, you have to have a place where that can be litigated. This is where it can be litigated. And if we didn't provide reasonable and adequate facilities, that'd be hard to do that. And anyway, I think I feel real good about what this board has done over the years, and to say that we're crazy on property taxes, I just don't understand that. But I'm happy everybody's here. We can't wait to hear from everyone. Does anyone in the commission wants to say anything? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just thank everybody for showing up tonight, and happy to take all the questions. And I think the county collectively has put a lot of hard work into this budget. And unfortunately, this is not the beginning of the process. We're a lot closer to the end of the process. A lot of work has already been done publicly and behind the scenes. We have multiple departments. So we have all the elected official departments, and then there are 13 departments just under the county commissioners. And everyone is treated as a separate entity with their own budget. And so every single one has to come up with their own budget. And each one was closely analyzed by our chief budget officer, Trent Triple. And we got to see every single department, whether they asked for an increase or not. And then each one of those requests for increases was scrutinized. We had to look and see, well, is it really needed, or is it something we can do without? And so we've really got this down to a line-by-line dissection to see, what can we do with and what can we do without? And that's the back and forth between every department, between the chief budget officer, between the county commissioners who represent the public. We're looking at it from both the taxpayer's perspective and the county's perspective. We have to balance those two competing interests, because it's the nature of government to always grow. But with growth comes taxes, and we need to hold the line on taxes, and that's what we tried very hard to do this year. Under Idaho code, every county or city is allowed to take 3% every year, plus foregone taxes. And it's always my goal every year to not take the foregone taxes from the previous year, and to not have to take that full 3%. We would have loved to keep it down to zero, and we fought hard to not take that full 3%. But again, with all the growth, just the incredible population increase in Ada County, we have to make sure that our services are, meeting the needs of our population. And of course, it's important to note that just because the budget goes up doesn't mean your taxes are going up, because property taxes are spread throughout every property owner, corporate and homeowners. And if we have 53,000 more homeowners, they're all contributing to the tax base as well. So again, just because the budget is increased by a couple percent doesn't necessarily mean your property taxes will go up. And that's something that we'll be discussing more tonight with the county clerk, Trent Triple. But again, thanks everyone for coming out, and looking forward to the presentation this evening.
Mr. Deneen, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess, first of all, I'd like just to thank everybody who's here, both the general public as well as the employees of the county and the elected officials and department heads. Thank you for those employees for prudently managing the funds of the county, because you're taxpayers as well as employees of the county, and you've done that well. You've helped us do that well. So thank you to that. And thank you to the taxpayers of Ada County as well, because they have also, I think, been prudent in how they've requested us to give them services. And so that's an important part of the budget function as well, is the expectation that taxpayers have on us to provide services. And I think the taxpayers of Ada County have done that, and they've helped us do that as well. So that's what I'd like to do. My goals at the beginning, this is my third year. They've been 5 years. I've been 3 years. This is my third year doing the budget. And some of my goals was, first of all, to balance budgets, which we are required to do under the law, as you all know. Secondly is go no more than the 3%, under the 3% maximum we could do. Third thing was take no foregone, and we've done that. Third thing was keep our employees in check, which we've done that, and our clerk's going to expand on all of those things. And another thing I wanted to do is make sure our employees were adequately compensated for what they're doing for the county. And I would be amiss if I didn't recognize that we're starting the year to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. One of the challenges that I gave to myself as well as to the employees and elected officials as we started this budget process was to look at ourselves 250 years later and ask ourselves, after we read the Declaration of Independence, are we intact in keeping with what our founders gave us in reviewing a government? Are we keeping our government in check? Because that's our responsibility, both as citizens as well as employees and elected officials. Keep our government in check and making sure that we don't have the kind of government that 250 years ago our founders objected to and reformed. Took them 10 years to get the Constitution, but so with that in mind, there are two things that are we're responsible for in budgeting. Whether it's our personal budget or a government budget, and that's income and expenditures. So I think we did that, and the clerk is going to help us review those two things as well as we go through and what we did in this budget. We reviewed both the expenses as well as the income. Some of those income items, and as was mentioned by the chairman, property tax is the primary source of revenue for local governments. And what we don't make in other revenue, we have to get from property tax. So we need to look at our other revenue sources as well, whether from the state or whether from our charges for people that we're providing services to. We're in the process of reviewing some of those as well. And part of the expectation that I was talking about in terms of the employees as well as citizens, we don't realize, and I did this exercise one day when I was just coming to work, what is happening around me that other people are doing for me that I'm not able to do for myself. And of course, when you get up in the morning, you flip the electrical switch, and that's a function that somebody else is providing for me. And the government is part of that by controlling the amount that our public utilities charge to us. Turn the water on, same thing. Our government helps us provide quality and quantity of water for us. And driving down the road, the roads, the school, drive by a school, all those services are provided for us. So we have government for a reason. It's a matter of how much government and how it functions. So again, thank you to the employees for helping us do that. And we're reviewing the 911 fees, we're reviewing landfill fees, we're reviewing other things so that we can make sure those services that are provided are also, that we provide for people, we charge adequately for those. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for everybody for being here. Those of you who are listening in that are not here, focus on what we do and how we do it and help us do it better. Thank you, and turn it over to the clerk to kind of flesh out what we've all three have talked about.
Well, and we'll get to that, and thank you for your comments. I want to point out that if anybody is here that wishes to testify, you can go by the back and sign up, so we'll know that you want to testify, and we'll take testimony. I want to also offer, this is the list of mandates. If anyone here or online wishes to get a copy of this, just let us know, and we'll send you a copy of all these mandates that Ada County is required to perform. There was a service that was done by an organization that took these mandates and went through our last year's budget and determined that over 90% of our budget was from these mandates. And so you got to remember that when we do something, it's because of these mandates, 90%. And you got to just think about what some of those mandates are. The jail. I just learned from the sheriff today, we have over 1,000 people in our jail, right? Well, it costs money to take care of all those 1,000 people. The sheriff has a large department that administers the law in unincorporated areas, and he's got people here for protect us for security. The prosecutor, she has a staff that when people need to be prosecuted, she handles the prosecution. The treasurer, the assessor, all have duties as dictated in the mandates of this of law. And that's, so we try to do the best we can with what we have, and I think we do the best we can with what we have. And with that, if anybody wants to go back and sign up, you're welcome to go and sign up. I'll turn the time over to our clerk, Clerk Triplett. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, commissioners, other elected officials, appreciate you. I like stress balls, as you probably know. I got a really cool one for today. It's a stack of money. So if you're up here and you need to release some stress, it's right here for you. I'd like to give a special thanks to the Board of County Commissioners, the Department of Administration, Tim Sturgis, our controller, Sarah Lund, the accounting manager, Anthony Locksmith, our data analyst, Colby Starman, our budget analyst, Ryan Thurman, our internal auditor, and Autumn Uturbi, our personnel budget specialist, and all the elected officials and department heads who helped us put this together. Through some challenging and constructive deliberations, we were able to reduce our overall budget by $1.8 million while still providing all of the essential services to our citizens at the levels and quality they expect. Before I dive into the Budget Explorer that will show us where every cent of revenue comes from and where every tax dollar is accounted for in expenses, I would like to set the stage with explaining the budget process, recent economic conditions, what our priorities were in developing the budget, and how we arrived at this point. Statutorily, the clerk's office is required to take input from all the elected officials and department heads, develop a balanced budget, and present it to the county commissioners for deliberation and approval. My office starts that process in January. To make this process smooth, we meet early with the commissioners to get guidance and desires for the budget cycle. I then meet with the elected offices and department heads to get their input and provide them with these guidelines. This year, the commissioners' priorities were to highlight the percentage of services that each office and departments are statutorily required to provide by the state, which turns out to be almost everything we do, as you've heard. Here you can see a breakdown of what type of services are mandated and what percentage of our budget goes towards them. A very small percentage of our budget is not mandated, but even most of those services are regulated by statute, implying they are expected services by our citizenry. The commissioners also wanted to address the continued rise in the cost of living in the valley, as well as retain highly experienced and skilled employees, so that level of service provided to the community remained high. A pound of beef is at a 10-year high of $7.67 a pound. Coffee is twice as expensive as it was in 2020 at $8.13 a pound. I can't even wrap my mind around the roller coaster that eggs have been on. And even worse, chocolate chip cookies and ice cream are now at their highest levels in 10 years. The impact of the federal government tariffs are starting to impact a lot of everyday goods, and there is quite a bit of uncertainty in many economic forecasts. There were also some county capital needs that needed attention as well that would be addressed with fund savings. New positions were also considered as long as we stayed in line with the historic employee ratio to number of citizens. All of this was done in the environment where sales tax revenue and liquor tax revenue sharing from the state has flattened from year to year and has even started to decline, as you can see in this first chart. If we were to follow the historical trend over the last 2 years, we would have had another $9 million in revenue from the state in revenue sharing, which we do not have. So we have to make that up from some other means. The impact of our budget on citizens is very real, and we think about this the entire process we go through. I am an 80 county resident that pays property taxes. As you can see, 33% of just under $1,000 of my bill goes towards county services, which include public safety, judicial services, and general government services like elections, records, treasury, assessments, development services, and basic operational needs like IT, HR, and building maintenance. While the 80 county treasurer is responsible for collecting all of my property taxes, 67%, as you've heard, of those go towards other taxing districts like the city, highway, library, school, and many other smaller taxing districts like sewer, water, and cemetery. For perspective, between my military pension and my current salary as clerk, last year I paid $37,000 in state and federal taxes. That does not include sales tax that I pay on everyday items, which is probably another couple $1,000s. Unlike all of those taxes I've just mentioned, you and I now know where every property tax dollar goes in the county and what essential services it is being used for because of the radical transparency available with the tool that I'm about to show you. For the budget history, it has not been easy the last several years with economic pressures and county growth, as you've heard, to keep budgets as low as they have been. Every year, offices and departments have had to make concessions on things they asked for and needed. Our budget has grown, but as you can see in the next few slides, we have not grown faster than our population. This year, our budget is lower than last year as we have continued to bring exceptional services to our citizens at the lowest possible cost. As you can see here, our budget per capita adjusted for inflation shows we are down to our lowest cost in the last 4 years, and we have just $51 more than in 2010. That ranks us as the lowest tax state in the 13-state region we are included in. The total number of employees has been on a downward trend the last few years, but even with a slight increase this year in new employees, our total still is lower than it was in 2023. This is the most telling slide. We are still at 40 employees per 10,000 residents, which is what we were at 2010. We have maintained a proportionally manned workforce for over 15 years based on our population growth. Bloated government workforces at the federal level and many other jurisdictions around the country just are not present here in Ada County. We have also addressed some capital needs in this year's budget that we will be detailed later in this brief, but here's a quick list. All of these are funded through savings. As you can see in our capital needs, for instance, buildings, equipment, etc., the county has lived up to the mantra, fix it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without for many years. We have been fiscally prudent with our savings and have kept within our budgets to lighten the load on taxpayers. We do not go into debt to provide these capital needs for the county. We only use unspent savings. And now I will use the award-winning tool called the Budget Explorer to give you a high-level overview of the FY26 budget. This tool provides an extreme amount of detail, much of which I will not cover today. Anyone who has a desire to do a deeper dive can do so at any time on their own by visiting the Ada County Clerk's Office website. This is an interactive tool that allows anyone to explore the budget in detail. The tool is part of an effort in the clerk's office to provide increased transparency and accessibility to public records. It is available on our website as of right now. I invite you to check it out and explore it yourself. We'll make sure it reloads here. Almost all of Ada County services are mandated by Idaho statute, as was highlighted in our briefings in June and as you've heard today, including public safety, judicial services, health and welfare, general government, sanitation, and recreation. Some Ada County services happen behind the scenes and may quietly go unnoticed, but have a big impact on making our community a great place to live, work, and play. If a major crime is committed in our community, the 911 call is handled by our county dispatch. County deputies and paramedics may respond to the incident. Defendants are held in the county jail where they await trial. The prosecuting attorney represents the county. County clerks and court administration provide support to the judicial system. Beyond the judicial system, the county maintains prized recreation areas, critical sanitation and health and services, and many other vital functions we rely on. For the fiscal year 2026, Ada County plans to collect $181.6 million in property taxes to fund the services it provides. For every $100 of property taxes that Ada County's specific services, $50 of that $100 goes towards public safety. $27.40 goes towards general government services. $17.20 goes towards judicial services. $2.80 goes towards health and welfare or Central District Health. $2 goes towards sanitation, including weed, pest, and mosquito. And 60 cents goes towards parks and recreation. You may wonder what goes into public safety. If you hover over the graph, you can see that of that $50, $39.10 goes towards the sheriff's office, $5.10 goes towards emergency medical services, $3.80 goes towards juvenile detention, and $1.90 goes to the coroner's office. For the upcoming fiscal year, the median value home in Ada County was $481,900. With the homeowner's exemption applied, the owner of that home is expected to pay $584.60 for Ada County services, including EMS, pest, and mosquito. Here you can see year-over-year changes. In personnel, the Board of County Commissioners has included a 2.5% merit pool increase and a 1.5% COLA for all employees, which is below what the state has approved for its employees this coming fiscal year. There were some positions added this year that fell within the current allocations or that were covered with revenue that the new position would bring in. Thus, no new funds were needed to cover 32 of the 47 new positions this year. 15 positions, however, were added that required additional funding. Of the 47 new positions, 32 positions, again, were funded with an allocation, and they include from the clerk's office, 1 case manager for community guardian, 1 new election specialist, and 1 in-court clerk. For the coroner's office, 1 medical legal death investigator, 1 receptionist, 1 emergency training and exercise coordinator. For juvenile, 1 administrative office coordinator transferred from grant funding to under the county funding umbrella. For the prosecutor, 1 victim witness coordinator. For the trial court administrator, 3 deputy marshals who were grant funded, also being brought under the county umbrella. For the sheriff, 1 chief deputy. For emergency medical services, 5 paramedics and 3 EMTs to staff Station 39 in Meridian. For the problem-solving court, 6 drug screen technicians, 1 administrative assistant, and 1 treatment center supervisor. And for the Western Idaho Fair and interim events, 1 food and beverage supervisor, 1 arborist or horticulturalist grounds lead, 1 consultant director, and 1 security supervisor. Again, all of these positions were funded within current budget levels by shifting resources or increasing department revenue. Now for the 15 requested positions requiring additional funding. 1 assistant chief deputy at the assessor's office, 1 forensic autopsy technician at the coroner's office, 1 warehouse supervisor for operations, and 4 positions at the sheriff's office, including 1 office wellness coordinator, 1 action team deputy, 1 forensic quality assurance, and 1 misdemeanor probation officer, and 4 EMTs and 4 AEMTs to staff the new intermediate life support response unit for emergency medical services. In our operating expenditures, our operating costs and running day-to-day government operations do not include personnel costs. For FY26, there was a $4 million increase in operating expenses. $1.7 million comes from an increase in professional services, including implementation of a new property tax software, an increase to the county contribution to Central District Health, and an update to the Ada County Comprehensive Plan. $1.2 million comes from an increase in software subscriptions for Microsoft and Adobe products. Additionally, spring 2026 will be the inaugural season of the Athletic Club Boise, a USL League One professional men's soccer team who will play their games at the stadium in Expo, Idaho. Operating expenses for special events increased by $869,750 to accommodate the team, a move that was covered by additional revenue. A professional women's team in the USL Super League, the highest level of the United States league system, will be added in future years. For major one-time projects or capital expenditures, last year's FY25 budget included $21 million in savings that was set aside in the master facility plan for future expansion and new administration building. Approximately $10 million from that fund will help defray the capital request costs in FY26. No additional funds for the master facility plan were budgeted in FY26. $11.3 million has been budgeted for the list of projects I showed you earlier, which include elections voting systems upgrade, vehicle shop and records office expansion for the sheriff, storage remodel of the old coroner's facility at Morris Hill, a treasurer clerk remodel on the first floor of the courthouse, IT storage system upgrades, sheriff's radio replacements, and a new CAMA-based property tax system to replace a 25-year-old homegrown system in the assessor's office. Now, where does all the funding come from, and how do those revenue sources compare to last year? For property taxes, to balance the budget this year, a 2.9% increase in property taxes, which is less than the maximum we are authorized to take, will be required, and we will levy the new construction roll to help subsidize growth as well. That is a combined roughly $9.2 million increase. The special taxing districts, EMS, pest, and mosquito, under Ada County's purview, will be taking the 3% increase and the new construction roll as well. That total increase in property taxes for the special taxing districts is $639,747, and no foregone taxes will be utilized. For department revenues, increases in department revenue were largely due to changes in the sheriff's office contracts for service with the cities, $1.5 million in expected revenues for emergency medical services, and $1.3 million in additional revenue for Expo Idaho Western Idaho Fair, including the revenue from professional soccer at the soccer stadium. In addition to taxes and department revenues, we have funds that come from other government sources, such as shared revenues like the sales and liquor tax from the state of Idaho that I've already outlined. Because of unspent budget from previous years, both in personnel and capital operating, in addition to increased revenue from interest associated with investments, Ada County has saved money in its fund balance, which allows us to dedicate some of those funds to one-time projects without bonding or levying for additional revenue. For fiscal year 2026, the county will be using $28 million in savings to balance the budget. Now let's dive a bit deeper into the budget and some of the more robust features of the Budget Explorer tool. Let's first meet the team. As you can see behind me, the Board of County Commissioners, their primary role is to approve the planned expenditures and the funding sources of Ada County services for the upcoming fiscal year. For the elected officials and department heads, they prepared the budget for their respective offices and departments. During the budget presentations, they were asked to include accomplishments from the previous fiscal year, what additional challenges their office or department faces, and what additional funding is needed. It is a real blessing to me to be able to work with them and to see how much they care about our community. This slide shows some of the individuals that make the budget process possible. We appreciate their efforts behind the scenes to make the process transparent, smooth, and efficient. Next, we will briefly touch on the budget process. This year, we kicked off at the beginning of February. The Board of County Commissioners, knowing that this would be a tough budget cycle, instructed county offices and departments to stay within a flat budget. If additional funding was needed beyond their allocation this year, a department or office was required to submit a supplemental request that would be scrutinized in greater detail during the deliberative process. In April, the County Transformation Board met to review and prioritize major capital and operating projects from across the county. This list helps the Board of the County Commissioners in the deliberative process. Here you can see the projects that were approved with a price tag greater than $500,000. In mid-April, personnel requests are due to Human Resources so that they can begin the process of reviewing all requests to ensure each one falls into appropriate pay structures. The chart here shows personnel actions approved during the budget process and the costs of each. At the beginning of May, budgets were due to the auditor's office so that the process of compiling the budget can begin. As mentioned before, if departments and offices required additional funding, they could submit a supplemental request. This graph here shows those departments or offices with at least $100,000 of additional requests, including personnel and operating capital categories. The next steps in the budget process were budget presentations, budget deliberations, and next Tuesday, we will be adopting a tentative budget. The tool contains links to the live stream presentations on YouTube, but in the interest of time, we're going to dive into the budget overview. Here's where we get into a broad view of the budget and how everything breaks down. For Ada County FY26 expenses, they're at $389,091,346. Ada County FY26 revenues are $360,946,379, with a planned use of savings of $28,140,000 or $140,967. If you hover over over the section of the budget, you can see how personnel operating percentages differ across departments that depend more on people or equipment. For example, the sheriff's office is split 85% for people and 12% for operating costs. If you look at IT, they are split 52% for people and 42% for capital costs. And finally, you can see the solid waste budget is 48% operating, 29% capital, and 21% people. If you look at budget history, blue is the budget as submitted. The light blue bars are budget dollars that were added through resolution after adoption. The black line is actual expenditures. From last year to this year, we are down 0.5%, or as mentioned earlier, $1.8 million. With this graphic, you can see how the county services are funded. Alternatively, if you would like to see percent of funding, you can click the circle next to the percent sign. And you can see that Ada County's entire budget is 46.7% reliant upon property taxes. At this time, I'd like to point out that all these graphics can be filtered on the department office level. So if you were curious as to how reliant on property taxes the sheriff's office is, you can click on the sheriff's office and see the breakdown. If you want to see for the prosecutor's office, you can see the same thing. It is easy and quick to get to this information on the tool. Here you can plug in your home value and get an estimate of what your Ada County portion of your taxes will be and what it will go towards. You cannot get more transparent than this. If you would like to see department budget highlights, you can click on the specific offices. For example, if you click on emergency medical services, you can see the following highlights: 16 new positions, including 8 to staff the Medic Station 39 in Meridian, and 8 new positions to establish an intermediate life support response unit. Acquisition and build out of 3 new ambulances. As you can see, $29 a year from the average property taxpayer goes to having EMS show up at your doorstep or to see him in an accident and save your life and get you to the hospital. You click on the assessor. The highlights there: the assessor's office will embark on a multi-year process to replace a 25-year-old homegrown property tax system. For fiscal year 2026, $937,500 has been allocated for the implementation of the program, and an additional $850,000 has been budgeted for user licenses for the software. To aid in the implementation of the new system, a new position for an assistant chief deputy has also been requested for a fully loaded cost of $156,158. If you click on My Office, Auditor, Recorder, and Elections, you can see the highlights there of a $3.8 million investment allocated towards upgrading elections precinct scanners to enhance election security and comply with President Trump's executive order. $2.8 million of the budget authority is located in the general department, and the remaining $1 million here is funded through consolidated elections fund balance savings. All it takes is $4 of your tax dollars to ensure fair, secure, and safe elections, to keep proper county records, and to ensure tax dollars are being utilized properly across the entire county. If you look under judicial services, under court mental health, there is 8 new positions: 6 drug screen technicians, 1 administrative assistant, and 1 treatment center supervisor, for a total of $459,534. These positions will be located at the new drug court treatment center on Elder Street in Boise. As you can see, no property taxes are used in the funding for this department. If you click on under sanitation for solid waste, highlights there include $1.7 million for a scale house drive for lane optimization construction, another self-supported fund that requires 0 property tax dollars. Last but not least, in recreation, let's look at Expo Idaho and Western Idaho Fair. These have been exciting times for Expo Idaho and the fair, with the use of ARPA funds to create the park at Expo Idaho, and a public-private partnership to bring professional soccer team, as mentioned before. 4 new positions: a food beverage supervisor and a horticulturalist, a consultant director, and a security supervisor. $870,000 increase in special events for professional soccer at Expo Idaho, and $375,000 increase in building improvements for security camera replacement and building maintenance. Again, a self-supported fund that requires zero property tax dollars. A highlight is that they are down 10.6% or $1.4 million in their budget year over year. Finally, in Parks and Recreation, they have two major projects occurring in fiscal year 2026. One is for a remodel of the Barber Park Maintenance Shop for $715,000. The other is a $400,000 greenbelt restoration for the pathway within Barber Park. These projects are both funded using the Parks and Recreation savings. Of your taxes, $3 goes to have access to such beautiful parks and waterways in our county. Now let's look at expenses. For fiscal year 26, the expenses are $389,091,346, down $1,788,889 from last year. That's a 0.5% decrease. Using this tool, I will show you how to dive down in the line item detail to compare and understand where those changes are. Anything blue in color is a personnel expense, anything in green is an operating expense, and the dark bluish gray is a capital expense. For example, if you hover over staff, the staff salary is our biggest line item in the county and makes up approximately 42% of our total budget. You can see the trend data and the increase over last year. New this year, we have added the actual expenditure and final budget amount from completed fiscal years. We will not go into debt, so we will monitor budget throughout the year to stay slightly under budget. You can also see the top 5 increases and top 5 decreases on the right-hand side. You can also click on the bar chart if that is easier. For example, let's look at IT. Their budget is almost up $1.3 million year over year. But you can see by the top 5 increases that the vast majority of that comes from software subscriptions. If you wanted to zoom out a bit, we can see that that personnel makes up 52.4% of the IT budget, and that personnel expenses are up $205,213 or 2%. Their operating budget is up $660,371 or 8.4% over fiscal year 25. Countywide, if you look at the big picture, personnel, which includes not only staff salary, but taxes and benefits, make up 65.2% of the budget, with operating expenses making up 26.5% and capital expenses making up 8.3% of the budget. Hovering these items will allow you to show the historical differences from year to year. Now you can explore, to your heart's delight, all the expenses for each line item in each office. Now let's jump into revenue. Revenues for FY26 come in at $360,946,379, up $14,731,403 or 2%. Blue again is property taxes, green is department revenues, and dark bluish gray is other government agencies. Similar functions to the preview expense dashboard, $9.9 million increase in property taxes. Department revenue line items make up the other 4 lines in the top 5 increases on the right-hand side. Those include franchise haulers for residential and commercial customers come from the landfill. Food and beverage comes from Expo Idaho, Western Idaho Fair for the additional professional soccer concessions. Individual payments made to emergency medical services by patients who need their services. If we zoom back out a little bit to less detail there, or no, you've got it. Revenue from other government agencies is mostly sales and liquor tax that is shared by the state of Idaho. Fiscal year 2024 set the high water mark for funding from other government agencies at $70 million. With the transfer of responsibility for public defense, the funding from the state for the services also went away. Recent legislation providing tax relief has also decreased the amount of available sales tax to be distributed to Ada County. With all things considered, we expect FY26 revenue from other government agencies to be $1.9 million less than it was in FY25. and $9.4 million less than the high point in FY24. So you can see how easy it is to dive deep into expenses or revenues for the county using this tool. If you want to learn more, you can click on the Learn More tab. Here are the links to the documents and the various YouTube videos of the budget presentation and the deliberations by the commissioners. This page also includes links to details for each capital project. Thank you for spending some time with us this evening. We hope you can see how hard these elected officials and department heads work to bring exceptional services to our community while keeping the property tax burden one of the lowest in the entire country. That concludes my brief. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. We appreciate that. It was a detailed analysis. And now, if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to testify, you're welcome to come up and take a few minutes and give us your thoughts. I only have a couple here that have signed up. One is Bill Chandler.
Bill is left.
Okay, Bill left. Okay, the other one is Dallas Berg. Welcome, Dallas.
Thank you for having this meeting for the commissioners. I represent Southwest Ada County. We had a kind of a little meeting this afternoon with about 20 seniors, and they're all concerned about the property tax that is going on. They're on a fixed income, and they know that property tax is going up, food is going up, and all other commodities are going up. Every time you turn around, everything is going up. And they were concerned about the 2.9% property tax that has been implemented. Now, I don't know about Commissioner Daly, but Beck and Davidson, what was your platform that you ran years ago? What did you say on your platform? I can remember.
Yes, and I talked about it. We cut property taxes by $12 million, and so far to date, there's still $925,000 left of that $12 million.
Okay. But in the note that I had is no new taxes will be going in on my platform that you guys ran. No new taxes, no more government interference, nothing like that. That's what the criteria was. That's what the platform was. That's what you guys ran on. And they're all upset that you're deviating from what you had promised years ago. I know that people are moving in, and the roads are getting crowded, and everything else is getting crowded. The highways are terrible. Sheriff's Department, I don't know why, what's the deal with sheriff's cars sitting at a fire station? What are they doing there?
There's an office for them to use the bathroom and brief and write their reports and eat their lunch.
Lunch?
Hey,
Eat their lunch.
this is not a question and answer. If you just provide your testimony, please.
Okay, well, on that aspect, they are concerned because they live on an income a fixed income. That's what they live on, a fixed income. They don't get a big raise. And so I was just designated to bring that to mind and let them express their opinion through me. And so that's what was here for, They're always worried about this. It seems to go up and up, even though they may have a deferred payment on that or something like that, but it seems to go up and up. Mine went up last year, and I was supposed to get a cut on that, and I didn't. What's the deal here? It just didn't work. That, it just doesn't add up. So that was their main concern. I know everybody has a budget, everybody has their problems, and they gotta meet the county mandates. I need a copy of that mandate that you have. Where can I get that copy at?
I'll send it to you.
Okay. And I think that's basically the big concern. And that's all that I needed to say at this time. And thank you, commissioners, for your time and efforts in this.
Okay, thank you, Dallas.
We'll
for coming.
see what happens.
Thank you, Dallas, for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else in the audience that didn't get a chance to sign up that wishes to testify? Nobody? Nobody? Okay. Nobody else is here wishes to testify. Now, part of the purpose of this budget is to have a presentation from our budget clerk regarding the temporary budget. And did you wish us to take that up at this time?
No, sir. Next Tuesday.
Okay.
Put it in front of the board for the.
We'll do that. We'll do that at our open business meeting next Tuesday. But we want to thank people who participated tonight. We had one testifier, but we'd like to have anybody else that want to. Every one of our meetings are open to the public, and we would like everyone to participate, starting in, when did we start? February is when we first started talking about the budget. This is not something that's done overnight. It's something that takes a long time, and we have lots of staff to help us, and we appreciate all the staff that does help us. But anybody can come in and testify and come in during our budget process. That is a more accurate time. And I want to thank Clerk Triple for presenting the budget like that. And just so you know, everything that you presented, that the clerk presented, is online. And you can look at it and go through it just like he showed you. Everybody. So you can dig into the details. And if you see an area in there where you think we ought to trim back or cut out, why don't you let us know? Because we're always open to hearing, taking input from the public. Anybody else have anything you want to say?
Mr. Chair, are we
Yeah,
able
go
to
ahead.
ask questions of the clerk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Clerk Triple, just wanted to kind of, as I stated in my opening statements, there is kind of a perception that if the budget goes up, your property taxes are going up. And that's not always the case because if you have a lot more people in the county paying into the pool, your taxes might go down. But I just wanted to kind of toss it to you to get your perspective on if the county budget goes up, are your taxes necessarily going up?
They don't necessarily go up. There's a constant play back and forth between personal property taxes and commercial property taxes. And over the last several years, we've seen a divergence where property tax is taking a lion's share of that and commercial is going down their portion of that property tax burden. We've seen a slight correction for that. And so, assessments could stay the same, budgets could stay the same, and your property taxes could still change because the burdens get shifted differently based off of appraisals between commercial and personal property. So there's a lot of things at play here. A lot of people think if our budget goes up, the property taxes go up. A lot of people think if your assessment goes up, your property taxes go up. But it's all put together into our levy. And as the chairman mentioned, our levy rate is lower than it was 4 years ago. And so that's the thing that sets it. The difference between property tax collection and many other tax revenues that happen like within the state for sales tax and income tax and all of those are forecast. And they base their budget off those forecasts. We set our budget and then we levy for those taxes. So those taxes are set every year. They're not going to change or go up, and that's to allow us to pay for those essential services. So the most important part of this process is for us to set the budget, and then we go develop the levy calculation that then gets distributed across all of the tax base.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Then maybe just wanted to open up to you or anyone else, but, to specifically address the senior citizen community of Ada County. We do have different programs, options for senior citizens to deal with the property tax issues. Maybe we could, just discuss some of those and what's available under Idaho code.
Yeah, there's obviously, if you're not happy with your assessment, there's a process to come before the board and do those things. There's also the circuit breaker levy. At the state level, I believe there's the grocery tax that is available still. And so there are some avenues that they can take advantage of to lessen the burden there.
Circuit breaker is available to everyone below a certain income level
That's correct.
and property value level. There's a combination there.
Yep.
We also have the property tax hardship process that I don't think everybody knows about in Ada County, but if you are suffering a severe hardship and you can't afford to pay your property taxes, you are able to appear before the Board of Commissioners and, kind of make your case why the board should forgive or excuse some of your property taxes so that you can keep your house. We also have program for people to waive their trash fees if they're suffering severe hardships. Trash isn't obviously that expensive, but that is another program that's offered by the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Also, you mentioned this, but explain the portion, what we're talking about here is just a small portion of the total property tax structure. And some of that, we issue the levy after budgets come in from the other 40 taxing districts. That is an estimate as well that can you explain that in terms of the other taxing districts, what that means in terms of the total tax bill that they're going to get after that all happens?
Yeah, we've done a great job here in Ada County. When you get your tax bill, there's a breakdown on there of what property taxes are being levied and what they're going for in terms of the taxing districts. Every taxing district that draws on property tax has to set their budget and then present that to us so that we can calculate the levy rates and make sure that the proper taxes are withdrawn. So that's the process that we go through. We will go through that as soon as the final budget is set here, and we get all of the other taxing districts' budgets that are set final as well. And then we submit that to the State Tax Commission.
So it's important, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's important that engagement of the public in each one of those taxing entities is important as well. And as you pointed out, cities and school districts are 67, I think you said 67% of the total property tax bill. So engagement with all of those taxing districts is important, just like it is with us in terms of, one, how their budgets are set, and then that translates into the tax that they actually pay. All of that is on the Explorer that you had. They can explore that in detail on how that impacts them, each one of those taxing districts, correct?
Not each one of the taxing districts. The Budget Explorer is only for Ada
For
County.
for us.
Yep.
But in terms of the overall percentage,
The percentages they can see from the other.
and then they can go to those taxing entities. That was my point. Then they can go to those taxing entities and do the same thing they're doing here, ask questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other elected officials wish to make a comment? Go ahead, Sheriff.
Mr. Chair, just wanted to echo some of the things that I've said, and especially last year when you watched the budget presentations. I could be wrong, but almost all of them had some sort of overlap with other departments here in the county. So when people are presenting their budget, very common for someone to mention other departments and how they've worked with them in regards to their budget. Not that we would help them design their budget, but how we work together sometimes helps the entire county save money. And I appreciate, of course, the cooperation that we have between all of the department heads and elected officials. And thanks to Clerk Triple for the tool and the presentation and guidance during the budget process.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Echo what the sheriff said. I appreciate the collaboration, the commissioners for listening to our presentations, asking questions, having a robust process, which I think helps all of us. I really appreciate all the elected officials and department heads and Clerk Triple for all he does and his team to prepare. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank my budget team and my employees for the amazing job that they do. I greatly appreciate their hard work and dedication to public safety and to the work that we do on behalf of Ada County. Thank you all very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wish? Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you all for being here, but I would just again echo the thoughtfulness that goes into this process. From the clerk's office, I would note that the Explorer is a fantastic tool. And as you noted, it's an excellent example of transparency and openness to really see where your tax dollars go. And I would just note about the process is, as you've noted, started in February, but it's such a thoughtful, deliberate process. And when I watched the presentations, the deliberations, you could see that the departments and offices were very thoughtful in assessing their needs and being sure that their budget requests, explaining how they tie to the statutory duties. And I appreciate all of the efforts in submitting those requests with an eye towards meeting our statutory duties, but within the context of remaining fiscally responsible. So thank you all for your efforts.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Assessor, do you wish to say anything?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. I would and like to thank my staff for all the hard work they put into the budget. They all look for ways to save money and provide the services that you need at the best cost. I would encourage you to participate in the budget process for all of the taxing districts. There are 40 of them in the county, and all of those are added together, and that's your property tax bill if you live within those districts. So I would encourage you to participate in the budget process for all of them. And I'd like to thank my fellow elected officials. It's been very impressive to me and an honor for me to serve with this group because I see the heart and hard work that goes into serving this community and trying to be as responsible as we can with your tax dollars. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank all my colleagues on the elected official group. We couldn't do anything anywhere near what we do without all your help and assistance, and we certainly appreciate that. This is all part of the Ada County family, and we appreciate all the efforts that you and your staff go through to fulfill all of these mandates, because this has been a remarkable thing, this mandates. I'm giving this to some of the other county commissioners across the state. They're shocked that there's 47 pages of mandates here. And I'm sure some of your folks were shocked when we sent it out and say, please tell us when you present your budget, how much of it is required by mandates. And as we discovered, it's about 90% of our budget is required by state mandates. And so I would say anybody out there that wishes for us to cut our budget, here's a good place to do some of it. Cut some of the mandates. But we appreciate everything that you've done, your staff, Trent and all the other employees that are here that have helped us prepare this budget. And we will take a final decision on the tentative budget, but it's just the tentative budget, and we'll adopt the final budget in first part of September or something along there. That's when the law requires us to. What's that?
August 12th.
Is the final budget good? Okay, is there, yes?
I'll just make another comment. I do want to point out that I think probably nearly every department, certainly everyone at this table, either made cuts to their budget or did not get 100% of the requests that they made in their budget, was cut out during the budget process. And again, that's nearly every department in the county. So I want people to know that cuts were made, requests were denied, and that comes up as part of this collaborative budget process. Also, do want to point out that something that's not talked about a lot in the budget process is the money that this board is going to be able to make for the county based on some big projects that we have coming up. And this is largely a result of the county's partnership with private industry, private businesses. For instance, we partnered with a private energy company to build a natural gas facility at the landfill, which is actually going to capture a lot of the gas emissions that come off of our garbage and convert that into energy, which is sold back to the power companies. And because of that partnership, when the facility is operating at full capacity, we estimate that'll bring in $1 million a year back to the taxpayers in Ada County. That will help keep your trash bills low. Hopefully, we'll be able to cut trash bills in the future because of this partnership that we have. We also are doing the massive redevelopment at the fairgrounds, and we have a partnership with professional soccer to build a new stadium. And that will bring in a lot of revenue to Ada County to keep taxes low. Again, we are talking with the Hawks about potentially building a new Hawks stadium. If that goes through, that's other millions of dollars that's going to come into the county to help keep your taxes low. So, again, the public should be aware that the board is always looking for opportunities to actually generate revenue and working with private companies, private industry to make that a reality. And I think we've been pretty successful with that over the last couple of years.
Okay. Well, that being said, our tentative budget will be set next week, and then then we proceed to a final budget. Once we set the tentative budget, it can increase from there. It can go down, but it can increase from there. Okay. Without any further ado, we are adjourned. Thanks for everyone's participation.